choice starts when it's 3, and that's where the people doesn't understand where your choice actually starts.
There's some people are just not ready to be unplugged, you know, religion is man-made and it's used to divide and conquer,
I stand that, like, if you are here, you have to speak English, you have to get social with Irish people.
Acclimatize into the culture.
Yeah.
That's like, I don't want to have kids, like that. It's so unnatural. You have to acknowledge your own ignorance, because humanity has been kept deliberately ignorant for a long time. We're exchanging knowledge here. We're exchanging, knowledge sharing, and hopefully it being educational for ourselves and even potentially for people listening.
Why are you always blaming men? Like,
pureness of human nature. They're trying to incorporate us into fucking transhumanism. You know what I mean? Like it's completely dystopian. But your heart is actually your real decision maker, and up here is just a filing cabinet.
hello, my friend, and welcome back. Today I'm joined with my friend John Caulfield, who is passionate activist and public speaker. Hi, John. How are you doing?
Hi, Afrita. How are you? Thanks very much for having me on. We met up there at a meeting there not so long ago, and we were chatting about a whole host of things, and we kind of realised that we ought to do a stream together, because some of the opinions that we just wanted to share and get out there into the public ether, just talking about a whole host of different things. I know you have a couple of topics specifically in mind that you'd like us to touch upon, and then sure we'll probably go off on I know I have a tendency to go off on a whole host of various different tangents and meandering streams of consciousness, so don't hesitate to rein me back in if you're like, no, let's get back to the point, John, that's not what I asked you. So we just decided that there was a couple of things that we kind of wanted to chat about, so I'm really looking forward to speaking to you today, Afrita. I think this came about when we were chatting, and I think you mentioned to me about, you had heard me speaking about NLP, I had made reference to it in a couple of either I can't remember whether it was public speaking or just doing general kind of media work or whatnot. I can't remember specifically, but it's something that I'm absolutely by no means an expert in, but I'm really fascinated because obviously we've seen the level of brainwashing and mass hypnosis and mass formation psychosis, and it all seems to tie in together, but NLP seems to be a very specific kind of tangent. And I did an interview, it fascinated me, I did an interview with Sarah Haboubi, who's a practitioner for about 20 years, maybe last July, I think it was maybe early August, late July of last year, and it was just interesting to know how manipulative it can be if used for dark and nefarious purposes. And NLP, it's something you're very interested in, isn't it? NLP and how it's been the signage. Like, what's your understanding of NLP, that you from your own research and from what you've seen?
Yeah, you see, like, I'm not by any means specialist either, but yeah, like, I like to discover what NLP means and stuff like that. So I started with the colors and slogans from the very beginning, and why it struck me so much, because like you never heard that kind of thing before. Like, for example, all those slogans like "Be smart, protect your family," smart. Wear the mask. People like to be smart, and it triggers them really, because like many people feel like unappreciated in workplaces, even in the house environment, like they don't feel appreciated. And then you drive to work in a car and you hear all those things: be smart, thank you for supporting us, thank you for building safe environment, and you feel like actually like it's not even like one person is appreciating you, but it's all country. And I think that was big thing where the people bought it all.
Do you remember the clap for the carers thing back in, like, was it April or May? I was living in Glasgow at the time, and like I wasn't awake at the time, and I actually did engage it with my housemates previously. I don't look back on that with fondness, knowing what it was, but like I remember just the level of emotional manipulation. So could you imagine how different? There was just this, and in fairness, a lot of nurses and a lot of doctors, a lot of people in the medical profession completely sapped it up. They bought into it because, as you say, they felt this kind of higher, grandiose sense of importance, so it fed into their own sense sense of ego. It fed into their own sense of, oh, well, I am doing, you know, wonderful work in this really traumatic, once in a lifetime pandemic opportunity. And I remember reading, actually, in retrospect afterwards, the woman who created it, she was a Dutch woman, I think, and she was like, after about maybe 4 or 5 weeks, she was like, no, stop this. This is being manipulated. This is being used for, you know, political reasons. That we need to stop this. That you know, like when you see it, because like, and I said this to you before, you know, like I was against lockdowns and all from the start, but I wasn't certainly awake to the whole, like how deep the rabbit hole actually goes. But like, just when you saw how easily people manipulate, I remember the first time I seen the signage in the shops, you know, the yellow and black signs, and it's like stand 2 meters away. And I was just like, what is this? I said, what are people, this, first thing that came to my word was robotic. I said, these are people who are just acting as though robots, and like, you know, losing the sense of human contact. Like if you're having a conversation with someone, and if you're 6 meters apart, as what they try to get, or 6 feet compared to 2 feet, you can't have as good a conversation with someone if you're 6 feet apart. You know, there's specific purposes to, you know, why they did that. And I remember, and one of the most other things that was so frightening and startling, I think it was just when I was kind of in the midst of my spiritual awakening, which is about this time last year, and I was in I was in Euston Station in Dublin, train station, and I remember coming in and I counted every one of the yellow and black signs on the floor, and then the ones that were like blocking the seats between people, and I counted over 150 in the streets, and there was only 2 or 3 people in there, and I was just like, what the fuck kind of world am I living in here? What's going on? You know, and that brought me down into the NLP and seeing, you know, how easy people could be brainwashed. And I think one of the things that was so effective, and I don't know if you'd agree or not, was how they were able to marginalize those dissenters like myself and yourself as, you know, crackpots, crazy, and then, you know, most definitely selfish, because it had such a level of hypnosis and you know, such a level of psychological brainwashing upon people on a scale that we haven't seen before. Like it was so sophisticated, like the bombardment that they did every single day through the media, through mainstream media. Like you can understand why a lot of people basically had their whole psyche broken down, and you can only but empathize with them, really.
Yeah. And like that's what I'm saying, like in any other occasion it wouldn't happen, but like they chose all the slogans so carefully. And why it was on yellow? Do you know why it was on yellow? Because yellow is for the brightest color in the color scheme, and actually, and it as well means that it's for hope. So like if they would put all those signs on the red, people would get like really scared, and they would actually probably like lose their minds or just sit in a home and order everything online. But like yellow, it's approaching and it's with the hope. So like if I'm going to do it right, there is a hope that we're going to get through this.
So that's another layer of the emotional manipulation. So because yellow is such a vibrant color, it doesn't actually frighten people. It actually gets them that sense of, oh, we're actually going to get through this. It's okay.
It's a sun, it's a spring, it's a hope, but in the same time, like to achieve that, we a little bit have to do this and this a little bit.
We just got to bring in some government overreach here, some government overreach over here. That's all. Don't worry. We're only introducing emergency legislation. Don't worry about that.
Yeah. In the same time, if it would be on green, nobody would even read them.
Interesting. I never actually, because like I knew there was something to the color scheme. I knew there was something to the yellow and black. It's yellow, black as well, don't they? Is that utilized for a purpose? You know, that's kind of the mixture in the color scheme.
I don't really know about yellow and black, but like the yellow and the like, why there is no use of green at all? Because even if you go across the street, red means alarm. I'm not crossing the street. Yellow means I still could skip. Green means
you'd wonder. I'm just thinking, right? So I'm just kind of thinking, hypothesizing on it, for want of a better term. So say if it was red, right? You wonder, would that actually instill like real, genuine fear and panic in people to the point at which they wouldn't be able to just continue going along as normal? You know, remember in the height of lockdown, like it's 2 years ago now, but it almost seems like it's 5-6 years ago, because so much has been compressed in such a short space of time. But you remember how fearful, how like apocalyptic it was, and that the streets were absolutely empty. You couldn't walk 2 kilometers from your home, and all the rest of it. We all know what went on. But you wonder, would people have not been able to so willingly kind of bend the knee and acquiesce by still going home and just being happy and contented to, you know, do their 5k run and put up their 5k on Instagram, go on to find a new show on Netflix, watch absolutely everything on Netflix, and sit at home and without actually considering what it is that's actually happening. If there had been red colours utilised, you wonder would it have been as easy to get people to the social conditioning, like it would have been much more difficult, as you say, it would have been still that kind of sense of panic.
I think it would be actually worse if it would be on red. It would be worse.
Why didn't they do it so? Do you think because it was a long term, they wanted to slowly get people
not to get like too scared and like just like panic totally, like, and like start mass I don't know, like robbing the shops or whatever, just like like it's end of the war. Like he stock up with the toilet paper, you know. Yeah.
it's kind of like they needed a certain amount of panic to be able to get people to do what it is that they wanted to do, whilst not such a high level of panic that the whole thing actually crumbles, the whole agenda falls asunder.
Yeah. I was.
We're going to keep an eye out. So I wonder if there's, you know, with all the food shortages and gas prices, whenever the financial system collapses, will we start seeing red signs everywhere? So the elites or the parasites, whatever way you want to refer to them, so they start causing panic. Who knows?
Like if they want real panic, they will start red signs. I don't really think so. They want people like panic just a little bit, not too, and that's again why like there is like all those yellow blue colors now, like, okay, but I don't really want to go into the
Ukraine Russia thing. The one thing I will say about that, I'm not really interested either, because it's such a complex situation and it's another psyop and a smoke screen and all the rest, you know. But I did see an interesting video, Efri, I don't know if you saw it, and it was a comparison of all the blue and yellow that was utilised during COVID, and it was a comparison of that and the Ukrainian colours, blue and yellow. Did you see that being, like, you know, it's being propagated everywhere, of course. So did you see that video doing the rounds there recently? I just kind of got a brief snippet of it. It was interesting.
Yeah, I did, but like that's why I don't want to go deeper, because like it's so uncertain.
Oh yeah, it's shaky ground.
The conspiracy theory that they all started because of the colors, and all the Ukrainian and Russian war is scripted like years ago, which I'm not sure. I don't want to be.
I know it's a landmine. I think it's such an ever developing situation that it's actually prudent and wise to kind of. You know, it's the reason I haven't commented on it much publicly, to be honest, because I don't know the situation. I've accumulated certain facts which obviously go against completely the media narrative. And the one thing I think we all realise, anybody who's within the truth community, is that once the media are vilifying one side and heroising the other, you got to be like, okay, something smells a bit off here. What's going on? The warmongers are out. You know what I mean? The warmongers are absolutely out. There's a reason and a rationale behind it. So that's the reason. You know, there's so many booby traps. There's so many tripwires with it. It's better to see how that one kind of plays out. Look, I knew it wouldn't take long before the Russian to Ukraine thing came up.
So we skipped the subject, like literally. I just want to skip it. Like, we are not there, and we don't see, and we don't know what's true, what's not true, and what was. I would like actually to go a little bit back, like with comparing why people think like just the fluoride is the biggest problem, but the problem is the fluoride is only dumbing people down. The next thing, you have to make people to do what they want them to do, because like if you are just dumb, you just watch Netflix after your work and that's all. But they need people to act, they need people to do this or that, or think this way or that. And yeah, that's why I wanted to mention this the most, because I want people to understand that it's not the only one problem. And it's like the programming of the people starting already when you are a kid. For example, like I'll just mention some examples and you can comment if you like. For example, like people are programmed even when to go sleep and when to wake up. People doesn't understand that, they don't remember that. They say there is 24 hours a day. There is 12 hours a day. and there is 12 hours at night. And if every single person would understand that, they would never agree to go to work at night when they're supposed to sleep. Remember, like, maybe you don't remember, I'm older than you, but now we think it was like, oh my God, it was so difficult and blah, 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 blah. The shops was closed at 6 o'clock, when the petrol stations was closed 6 o'clock, because that's already where the night starts. So you can have a couple hours with your family before the night. If people would know the actual day is just 12 hours, they would never agree to work 10, 11 hours, because it's all day gone and all you have left is your night. So you don't see your kids, you don't have time to research something or think even, or go and meditate in the mountains or something. And if we think, most of the people think it's for our not confidence, it's for your
benefit.
Yeah, it's like, it's awesome. You can get the food after 9 o'clock. You can get the petrol in the middle of the night, but it's not normal. It's not natural. It's not human nature.
No, I it's very interesting you mentioned that. It's something that I've become very fascinated with, because like as you know, I'm unemployed, so it gives me a lot of time to do a lot of research and to do what it is that I'm doing. I wouldn't, but most people, the average person, as you say, they're programmed from such a young age. From school system all the way up to have this regimented routine. You get up at this hour, you make your breakfast this day, and it is good to obviously I'd like to have a certain element of a routine, because otherwise you'll just have no structure, and I know all about that. It's quite problematic, but they're trying to set out the stepping stones in life and to make people so busy, so debt ridden, so aligned to trying to climb the corporate ladder, to having these aspirations of social climbing, whatever it might be, whatever the system really feeds off, and these people don't have the time, nor how many people, like you'll know as well, everybody, how many times have you spoken to somebody in your life about what's going on, and often the first thing says, look, I don't have time to know about that, I have to deal with X, Y and Z, and you got to sympathize with them, because it is, to a certain extent, it's true, but they're not living this authentic purpose as to what, like, we know that there's a new art being created, there's going to be much, and it is, look, it's a spirit, whatever your spiritual inclinations are, it is a spiritual war, we all recognize that, you know what I mean, it's good versus evil, whatever way you want to construe it. So those kind of communal gatherings, like how many people who are working those jobs have time to literally go out and meditate and sit up in the mountains for a few hours, just be at peace with themselves, and go deep into nature. The whole system has been cultivated around that to prevent people from actually digging that little bit deeper, and I really feel sorry for those people, a lot of those people in many ways, because by and large, a lot of them are quite decent, and unfortunately, they're going to have to swallow a massive red pill this size. There's a tidal wave of awakening coming towards those people, and they're going to rely upon, the likes of myself, yourself, everybody else who's awake to act as guidance for them, But going back to the original point, sorry, there's me going off on a tangent again, but just the how the system is created in such a way, the pyramid system that's been created by the cabal, by the elites, by the parasites, it's genius in many ways. You have to give them credit where credit's due, because it's just taken people away from their natural state of being. But on the flip side of that, the defiance of the human spirit is unbelievable. I really don't have any fear as to what's going on. I know that's easy for me to say, because I don't have a mortgage, don't have kids, don't have all those general worries that a lot of people do have, but you can see the new world being created, Anyway, sorry, there's me going off on a tangent about the entire, I just see the system, when you can see the system crumbling, the old energy going and the new energy coming in, it's a very exciting time in many ways, and it's something that's often lost on people, because fear is so, it abounds us, even amongst our side. Sorry, I'm going off and hold us, I'll stop after this, but there's so much fear even on our side, and once people kind of bend the knee to that fear, and really kind of let it absorb their sense of being and their sense of soul, it prevents them from becoming solution orientated, But anyway, that's another thing. The power of fear might be something I think you'd be very much interested in as well, and very much mentioned, and how it's actually been weaponized to such an extent like never before. Sorry, that was a little monologue. Sorry.
That's why we are here, to touch, like, I don't know all of your views or all of your knowledge, you don't know all of mine, and that's why we are here to share it with people. So it's not just like fluoride and TV and that's it, but that's why we fucked up. we are programmed from the childhood. Even when the people misunderstand what means choice. Choice means when you have more than three, at least three is minimum options, three or more options. But from the childhood, we are actually programmed to accept one or another.
Wait, so two options doesn't equate to choice?
But people think that's a choice. But like, if you can even like most probably remember, even on the childhood, you go for breakfast, your mom is asking you, would you like the porridge or, for example, that's not a choice. That's not the choice. Choice is when you can say like, Mom, can I get the scrambled eggs? Or if you ask somebody, it's on everyday's occasion. We're going here to Spain or France. Are we going to the club or to the pub? Or do you want wear the black coat or the white coat there? It's not a choice. Choice starts when it's three, and that's where the people doesn't understand where your choice actually starts. And that's
it's an interesting aspect of choice, because you'd seen a lot of people. Let's take the vaccine for example, and they, somebody might be talking about the discrimination with regards to those people who were blocked out of public venues as a result of the COVID pass, well, data passport really, but that's neither here nor there. And there's a lot of people saying, oh well, it's your choice to not take it, so it's your by you know what I mean. So that exactly, that's only two options. Like, choice to me, I didn't know it actually. That's an interesting thing, that it requires minimum of three options, because as you say, if you have two, you're still confined, you know what I mean. It requires that bare minimum of three. But for me, I always thought, well, choice should be whereby if you decided to not do something, you wouldn't be punished as a result of making that choice, you know what I mean. So it was quite clearly not and never a choice. But yeah, it's very interesting. I didn't know it required kind of minimum of three options. I suppose you're still you're completely limited when it's just two, you know what I mean. You're still being, I didn't know that was just the what's the word, the kind of the minimum threshold of what choice actually entails.
It's not going just by the choice. Three, it's like if you state something and you have two examples. First is it's just happened. Two is coincidence. When it happens three times, it's like it's a thing. Like,
okay, I don't believe in coincidences anymore.
That's why everything always goes by three. I'm not really a big fan of the Bible, or I don't know. Are you very good with the Bible?
In terms of the actual scripture, no. I'm actually I'm on a mad spiritual awakening, but I'm open to anything and everything, and I have a lot of friends who are actually, I suppose, trying to live very virtuous lives. But I've tried to learn a lot about the Ten Commandments and the history of the Bible and how it ties in with a whole host of other things. So, but I wouldn't be an expert on it in terms of any kind of scripture or anything. I'm not a scripture expert in anything.
I'm not the expert either, but like there is a part where Jesus was walking through the how you call it?
Desert.
Where the Jesus was walking through the desert, he was challenged by the devil 3 times. He offered him this to stop his suffering, this and this. It was 3 offers, and he did all 3 of them.
Okay.
That's how the devil, and that's actually works at the moment. You notice, like, if you have some unpaid bill, it's always 3 notifications. If you have to go to court, don't go to court. It's 3 notifications. Then there is 3.
That must tie into gematria, the study of numbers, and how the Kabbalah, it's like a pendulum. Like, we can use numbers to our advantage, but they use numbers to their advantage as well.
We just, like, most of the take a Bible, for example, as a religious book and stuff like that. But like, if you go and read it with different mind setting, it's totally different. For example, even like wherever who calls you, like from the social welfare, from your phone company or whatever, you have to give them 3 proofs that you are that person: your name, surname, your address, and your date of birth. Everything goes by 3.
That doesn't surprise.
Yeah.
Doesn't surprise me. There must be something in that in terms of the gematria, and you know the way like there's the hierarchy of laws. There's like you know, you have universal law, you have you know, God-given law, and all the rest of it, and then you have the man-made laws. And I know that gematria, to the bit, like, it's very very superficial knowledge of it and how the numbers thing and all operates. But I know that it's very much a part of universal law, like the number. So as to do you think that that's a good? Is that like the use of number 3? Do you think that's something that's been manipulated by the cabal, or do you think that that's something that's natural?
I would say, since you mentioned the universal law, that's one of the universal laws. Everything have to go by 3, because that's in the Bible, and Bible is kind of like handbook for the elites. I have a movie coming up about this, so I'm not going to go too deep in that. But like, since you mentioned the universal law, everybody have to understand the basic, the biggest, the highest universal law is they can't hide what their plan is.
The karmic wheel, absolutely. The karmic wheel. They gotta show you what's coming up, and they do it in the most insidious, hidden ways. It's unbelievable when you see it. Like, when I don't know how long you've been awake to all this crap going on, Afrita, but all this, like, I'm processing all this very rapidly. And when you see it, you're like, how did I not see this before? How did I not see them dropping the signs? Like they do. And I think that comes back to their karma, isn't it? The karmic wheel, that they feel obligated. It's as if that they feel that they can, you know, if they show you. No,
I that because they have no remorse, they have no conscience, they have nothing. But like universal law, and they have to go by universal law, and that's why there is. I know many people are just like, still, even American people saying like, oh, movies, sci-fi movies, fantasy movies, they are just movies. They wouldn't give you information, obviously, in newspaper, but that's the universal law. They have to show it somewhere. It's up to you if you find it or if you can see it.
Yeah.
That's why it's all those movies like Men in Black. I have actually the list, like Wag the Dog, The Visitors, Generation P,
V for Vendetta,
the Simpsons. Everybody is guessing like how it is, how they predicted. They didn't predict anything. It's Masonic animation, and that's the way how they show you what's going to happen. It's not they predicted something. They just had to show.
Have you seen Vendetta? Have you seen the movie V for Vendetta?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I watched that as a kid and I loved it. And then when I woke up as well, and someone told me, I was on a voice chat one day, and someone said, "Oh, watch V for Vendetta again." And I watched it. I was like, "Oh my god!" Like the similarities. They obviously, you know, and they've been doing this since time millennia. Like they've been showing people. They must have been doing it like even before, you know, the age of, I wonder, and I'm just kind of asking, you might know more about this than I do, but before even the age of like mass media, you know, kind of 1950s, 60s onwards, and they had like TVs and radios and newspapers, like how did they, because the cabal's been in operation for a long time, but how did they show people, or how did they, you know, kind of adhere to universal law by actually showing people back then what it was that they were going to do? Do you know?
I'm not that old.
I know you may have read more on it than I do. I'm just curious more so than anything.
Yeah, like basically, first of all, like I woke up like literally like 3-4 years ago.
Okay.
I was sheep as earth before. I was watching TV. I was scared of everything. I was believing the news channels, presenters, and stuff like that. But like, yeah, like starting from like, yeah, as you said, like before Vendetta, then Bug the Dog. That's 1997. It's like just plain inside. Have you watched the Bug the Dog?
No, I haven't.
Amazing.
Okay.
Amazing movie, actually, because it's actually how they it's kind of like, yeah, presented, whatever, made the movie about the war, which didn't happen at all.
Okay, which war are we talking about? The Second World War?
No, it's about some of the, it's like, since it's a movie, it's like kind of entertaining movie.
Right.
But
yeah.
Again, how it's done. I'm going to post in the description box some movies which I just like was going through as preparing for this stream, like which movies. Black Mirror it's same as The Simpsons, even better.
But that was even, do you know, I remember watching Black Mirror even before I kind of woke up as such, and even that to me was like, I didn't, like, it was entertaining, but it was also frightening. Like, I remember, do you remember the Black Mirror episode? There was some brilliant ones in it, and obviously, like, I don't know, I have no idea as to whether the creator of it was part of the cabal and he was planting seeds, or whether they were trying to warn people. I really haven't an idea, I have no idea. But I remember, do you remember the one where your woman, she had, like, the social credit system? She was going to a wedding, and it was like all the social media points, and it was just so, you know, fake, superficial, narcissistic. Like, Jesus, sure, that's what it's going to be. That's almost what it's becoming. Like, you know, the level of virtue signaling that we have in modern day society. You know, but yeah, Black Mirror is a very interesting one. You know, people, especially considering the fourth industrial revolution and all.
Which you mentioned, it's called like Nosedive. Then there is Men Against Fire. Men Against Fire actually is the best to watch at the moment, because it's about how people are turned into killing other people.
Oh yeah.
Very, 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 very good episode. It's like, yeah, there is so many like manipulations, ways like how to manipulate people. It's just crazy. And as you know, and viewers know, like, trying to, because like it's not enough to know just like you are manipulated and other people are manipulated. It's, you have to know which ways, through what, and it's not just TV, or it's like, it's even like
it's the whole world. It's everything around us.
Yeah.
It's the Matrix. But you know what? I come back to the Matrix for that. You know what, Afrita? And I was thinking, you know the way, like yourself, a lot of people get, not necessarily yourself, but so many people get frustrated, be like, oh, why can't people see? You know, why can't people see? But like your man Morpheus said to Neo in the Matrix, said most people aren't ready to be unplugged. You know, and at the end of the day, to me, this is most definitely a journey about your soul. You know, it's not about selling anything anyway. It's really is an individual journey about your soul and salvation. And the cabal is coming for souls. You know, definitely through the mRNA and all the rest. And like, that's why there's some people are just not ready to be unplugged. You know, you can, and that's why I always think asking questions and planting little seeds. There's a song, I don't know if do you know Ian Brown? He was in the Stone Roses. And he has a brilliant song, and it's Little Seed, Big Tree, and he talks about like Masonic lockdowns, New World Order, 5G, you know, chemtrails in the air. He talks about absolutely everything, you know, and he's literally essentially saying that all you have to do is plant a little seed and it can grow into a big massive tree. And it's a brilliant song, you know. It's actually almost kind of semi-hypnotic as well, and kind of the waves and the frequency that he uses. But you know, to get people to realize how much you've been manipulated, like, you know, it's interesting. I saw a post on social media, right, and then I'll stop after this. I saw someone post a little meme, and it was so good. And it was like, have you lost all your friends? Do your family think you're crazy? Are you happier than you've ever been? Congratulations, you're on the next. You are officially onto your spiritual awakening. You know, and it's so true. The fact that it's happened, pretty much everybody that I've seen within the troop community within Ireland, like, has kind of experienced something quite similar, with obviously different nuances. You know, because the level of just people who can see, for whatever reason they have eyes to see. You know, last thing I'll say, somebody told me before, there's 3 types of people in the world. How true this is, I don't know, but it's an interesting analogy. You say you have 3 types of people. You have those people who can see, those people who can see when they're shown, and you have those people who will never see. You know, and it's kind of 30, 30, 30, 30, 40, 30, something in that kind of ratio. I think it's very interesting, you know, because, like, why is it that me and you can see through this manipulation, where there's other people who are very intelligent, very enlightened and all the rest, but they can't see it? It's something. I think this period in time that we're living through is going to be studied for a long, long time, and hopefully we'll be the writers of history this time, you know.
Yeah, when you mentioned the memes and stuff like that, like, I remember as well, like, a couple of days ago, there was like kind of picture of like maybe 9 years old girl crying over the book, and the text under was like, kids in 50 years trying to learn history of 2022.
Oh, it's true. It's very true. You have to laugh, don't you? If you don't laugh during these crazy times, you'll lose your sanity. You know what I mean? I feel sorry for those people who, but it's true. Like, imagine going back. I was going to go off on another tangent there, but like when you consider history, like I never realised history is one that I'm really going into. So I'm going obviously deeply into Irish. I know you kind of want to talk about nationalism as well at one point and feminism, but I'm going deep into kind of Irish history as well, like actual ancient history now, stuff that's been hidden and suppressed in us. So there's 2 books I'm reading at the moment, and it's Ireland, the Land of the Pharaohs by Andrew Power in 2005, and then Ireland, Ancient Wisdom Hidden in the Bible and the Pyramids by Conor McDarry in 1923. And when I'm reading them, I'm like, fuck me, Pink. I said, all our history, the fact that Ireland is like seemingly the heart of the universe, was the seemingly Atlantis that, was an absolute bastion of modern progressive civilization. Seemingly the veil between the physical realm and the spiritual realm is thinner in Ireland. And it's enlightened and ignited an absolute, staunch, rebellious nationalism in me and a love of Ireland. And it actually sometimes, it kind of somewhat infuriates me. I wouldn't say infuriates, but that's too strong a word. But when I see people who see what the Irish establishment are doing to their own people, the likes of the politicians, the media and all the rest, and they're saying, oh, this country has gone to the dogs, this country's gone to the dogs. And I'm all about, maybe it's kind of an NLP thing, but flipping the perspective in that regard and be like, no, but then you're almost kind of imposing upon them a recognition that they are a representation of what Ireland and Irish nationalism actually is. Bollocks, they're not. They should be almost utterly discarded from that perspective, because to me, true Irish nationalism goes so far beyond that, and at the end of the day, they're just trying to hide us from our authentic history. I know you've been here a long time and you've acclimated very well into the society, but you're also like a big believer in Irish nationalism. I even saw you having a post on Facebook the other day, and it was like, it was something like it was a picture of Éire, and it was like, if you believe that Ireland should come first for the Irish, please share this. And I think coming from someone like yourself, who it kind of refutes the far right narrative and all the rest of, we're all racist and the usual kind of lambasting that you'll get from the establishment. But yeah, you kind of, I kind of brought it up, but you kind of wanted to touch upon nationalism, didn't you? There was kind of a couple of points that you wanted to kind of touch upon.
It's not really I want to touch those, but like I just want people to understand actually what means nationalism. Like it's twisted. The meaning of nationalism is twisted again. It doesn't mean like we just want, like, for example, like Irish people want just Irish people in their country.
No.
You have to fit in the country. You came over here for a reason. You stayed here for a reason. So appreciate why you are here. Most of the cases, people comes from like a little bit worse conditions to find like better life here. So appreciate the country that they gave you that opportunity. Obviously, of course, like if I go on holidays in my country, in Latvia, I will go on the protests, or outside my house there is going to be Latvian flag, because like I'm Latvian and I support Latvian culture and Latvian people. And not only Latvian people, but all the people who lives in my country and appreciates my country's culture. And as you know, like I was the first person, and I think I'm still actually the only person who is constantly on the speeches at the Custom House and in Limerick and Galway, who stands up for the Irish culture, because people start forgetting about their culture. And it's not for, as we know, it's not coincidence, it's on purpose. So we bring in so many nationalities. Now they are considering to replace at the St. Patrick's Day, to replace Irish flags with the Ukrainian flags. Okay, yeah, we are sorry for what's happening with those people, but we are in our country and it's not our day.
And we're neutral. Ireland is neutral and ought to remain so as well. That's a different story, but Ireland is neutral, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like lately they are already saying like they have to change it. Anyway, so about the nationalism, like I stand that like if you are here, you have to speak English, you have to get social with Irish people.
Acclimatize into the culture.
Yeah.
And you know what's very interesting about that as well, because I remember somebody made a point to me, and it always resonated and it always stuck with me when I realised how, you know, the unvet, and I'm like yourself as well, you know, anybody who's fighting for freedom in this land, by all means, you know, you're fighting for freedom more so than, and you're fighting for Irish freedom more than a lot of Irish people, you know what I mean? And that is the absolute truth, you know, you're fighting for the nation that you've been welcomed into, but you've, as you say, you've also acclimated into. But it's the fact that it seems as though the elites or the power brokers in society, the UN, globalist institutions and all the rest, that they're trying to, you know, homogenize cultures. So they're trying to make all like a cultures essentially the same. And, you know, for somebody to say that's racist, well, I would say is, no, do you know what? I actually, if I like German culture, I like Spanish culture, I like Asian culture. And if I was to go to those countries, I would like to be exposed to that culture. But sure, if we've all become completely homogenized and essentially, you know, a bowl of soup, you know, like, whereas it's just complete and utter multiculturalism, then where's the culture? You know what I mean? Like that is where's the culture, and it's a topic which so many people are afraid to actually speak about, because it's a huge problem. It's a huge, you know, it's been a huge part of the agenda for many years, and a lot of people are afraid of how they're going to be tarred and feathered as, you know, far right and all the rest of it. And it's just, again, it's more political correctness and virtue signaling that's preventing people from speaking up, you know. But yeah, like a nationalism, to me, it just comes back like a love of one's nation, a love of one's whatever nation that might be. If I was living in Germany, I'd have to have a certain level of German nationalism, you know what I mean? And having a love of your tribes and a love of your history, you know, the Irish history that's been hidden from us. I'm gonna go back to it again because of the passion. I'm so passionate about it, because it's just, I feel as though our authentic history, the importance of the place within, and obviously I say this with a nationalistic bias. Naturally, I put my hands up and admittedly say that, but the importance of Ireland in previous cataclysmic world events, which is what we're kind of living through at this given moment in time, is just, it's almost, to be honest, beyond comprehension. And that's, I kind of felt that on an intuitive level when I woke up and started, you know, speaking out and all the rest. I could just feel it, and now I'm almost like information and books that are coming into my kind of my realm, and just they're just sometimes they're utterly shocking, and I have to get up from my laptop and I go up and talk to my mother, like, ma'am, this is what happened with Ireland 1600 years ago, and she's like, geez, this is too much to absorb. How'd you go? I can't help it, you know. And it's just, to me, it's fostering this absolute love of what being Irish represented, because it was always about peace. They had an empire across the world, but it was a spiritual empire. They ruled by consent, not by decree. I believe, according to the Conor McDarry book, there's 36,000 musical tunes in the world, and 17,000 of them actually came from Ireland. Modern architecture, astrology, agriculture, so many things came from Ireland, you know, and it's a tiny little island off on the west coast, you know what I mean? And the cabal have just been really trying to undermine the Irish spirit for so long. And the fact that I feel so grateful, and, you know, I feel utterly blessed to be at this moment in time surrounded by other people who are seeing the Irish, and people as well like yourself, I don't mean, you know, that in an exclusive way, but just opening up their intuition, actually becoming more intuitive, realizing what's going on, and actually really fighting for their nation, trying to create a new world. It's beautiful, because I'm fully of the opinion that Ireland may truly be the first sovereign nation in the whole, you know, potentially in the whole world. Now, look, I guess that's a big kind of, you know, that's a big kind of thing to put out there, and it could very well be incorrect, and I don't care, you know, but very well could be incorrect, but that's something I really intuitively believe for a number of reasons. But anyway, that's just me. I had to get that out, you know. When I see people speaking ill of saying, oh, Ireland's gone to the dogs, and, you know, in many respects it actually is, it just irritates me, because I feel as though that's not what you should be focused on. Focus on the beauty of nature, Ireland, the amount that, focus on the history, delve into the history in Ireland. It's so rich, it's so abundant, you know what I mean? And the things that they're keeping deliberately hidden from us to find our true, authentic ancestral history, you know. Those are the things that really, the things we should be focusing on, what makes Ireland, because, you know, to go forwards in this kind of battle, we kind of have to go backwards, because we're going back to source somewhat, you know. But anyway, sorry, I kind of digressed a bit there. I had to get that out there.
No, yeah, that's great. Like, yeah. So, and like, that's where we can see, like, again, like, to go back, how it's twisted to people not to even try to learn the history or stick with their history. It's like, we can go to the next subject now. Like, for example, like, Christianity is now like the religion of Ireland is they trying to swipe it under the carpet with all the transgenders and okay, I don't know. Are we going to transgenderism now?
Speak on anything. Look, I'm an open book, Frida. I'll speak on any topic. You know, if you're talking about the general levels of decadence and
even if I'm not a religious person, I just can see like the tools how they trying to replace religion with the other things. Let's call it
Satanism.
Yeah.
Worship. Would you mind me asking, just to go backwards? So you say you're not religious. Would you be spiritual? Like, surely you must. You see that there's a huge spiritual awakening going on, don't you?
I'm pagan. Everybody knows that.
I wasn't aware.
I kind of, as far as I understand, like actually the Irish come from pagans as well.
There's a huge history of paganism, and it's so like it's a deep history, like.
But yeah, I'm not religious. I'm pagan, and like I believe in God of the water, God of the wind, God of the sun, and that kind of way.
The reason I say it's something that fascinates me, right? And the reason I'm kind of emphasizing the spiritual aspect is because I really think what happens in the spiritual realm is almost more significance than the physical realm in terms of what's going on. And at this moment in time, whilst I have absolute respect and understanding towards everybody who has a different religious belief, the fact that there's almost 5,000 religions in the world, 4,800, and how it's been used as a divide and conquer mechanism makes me see that perhaps, potentially, I could very well be wrong, that, religion is man-made and it's used to divide and conquer, And if you go back to the old Irish Magian priest, this is something I learned from the Conor McDarry book, like the Irish Magian priest, from what I gather now, and as I said, I'm not a scripture expert, I'm just curious, but it would appear as though that they were almost sort of semi-pagan, and like, you know what I mean, they would appear as though that they were, they had sun worship, they had moon worship, I think they had all different, all kinds of different esoteric kind of worship and all the rest, but it was all around the world, and it's attached to the pyramids. You should really read that when you get in, time in due course, but, I'm very open. I'm actually going to do a show at some point with on the Irish Inquiry. I want to get someone who's like a born again Christian, someone who's a Catholic, somebody who is maybe either an atheist or an agnostic, somebody who's spiritual and somebody who's a pagan, and put it all together. It'll probably be a really volatile conversation, because there's so much dogma, there's so much fundamentalism, there's so much different opinions, but just to try glean a consensus and a commonality, because instead of sometimes people are fighting with each other over what the actual truth is with, be it the Bible or something else or whatever the case may be, it's actually preventing them from collaborating with each other in many cases, you know what I mean? It's used to create a sense of distrust. But at the same time, if we do really believe in a republic, that means people should have the freedom to practice whatever religion they ought to. Everybody should absolutely have freedom.
So here I have to mention, like, you have to be able to practice whatever you want to, but it doesn't mean you have to push it on other people.
No, absolutely not. No, it's a fine balance.
Yeah.
Because I think with the I don't know if you consider it this way, like Afrita. So like over the next couple of years, right, we're coming into a really intensely volatile period in human history, right? Like nobody has a fucking clue exactly what way this is going to go down. Nobody really does, because there's too many variables. But you gotta have faith in something to get you through this, whether it's mythicism, whether it's Catholicism, whether it's Christianity, whether it's something else, whatever the case may be, you gotta have faith in something to kind of to thrive through what's going to be very, very precarious times, you know what I mean? But as you say, without being, it being pushed upon people, because have that respect and courtesy toward tolerance, I suppose is the word. Tolerance for people to practice their own religion, and tolerance for other people who are not going to agree with the same viewpoint. You know what I mean? It's quite basic, really. Do you want to touch upon, Afrita? I know we're probably coming towards the latter part. Do you want to touch upon feminism? I know it was something you were going to ask me. You were going to ask me about.
Yeah, I don't know where to start. Like, actually, like I had one interview about the feminism already, but like I hadn't heard your opinion on that. And
well, it's
why?
Oh, sorry. Go on ahead.
Yeah, why it's so pushed on us, and like.
Well, I'll put it to you this way, right? I'll give it to you quite simply in terms of my perspective at this moment in time. So at one point in time, prior to having woken up, I actually would have considered myself a feminist and that I thought I believed in equal rights and all the rest, right? No, genuinely, like I'm open to admitting that. I thought that it was correct and right. I thought it was done for virtuous reasons. I thought this was genuinely about the liberation and emancipation of women from, having had a certain curtailed role in society for many years. And then ever since having woken up, the fact I've seen the insidiousness of the agenda to break down the nucleus of the family unit, like that's what it's all about at the end of the day. It's all about breaking down the nucleus of the family unit, turn man against woman, woman against man. Children don't have a stable home. It gives the state an opportunity to come in and fill that vacuum between, like even if you look at the generation at the moment that are growing up, I don't think has there ever been as much of a disconnect between children now and teenagers and their parents. You know what I mean? There's such a disconnect because the family unit's been under such attack for so many years, and the state is trying to fill that void. The state, well, more so the private corporations, which the state is a private corporation. We all know that. The governments are all private corporations, but the fact that feminism, it's been weaponized, and let's call a spade, and this is there's been a huge attack on men in society as well. Like because we know that if there was a society of strong men, would not have allowed it to have gotten this bad. They simply wouldn't have, because men would have done their traditional role, I suppose, of kind of bearing the brunt of trauma, of bearing the brunt of the pain, of actually speaking up and saying, hang on, something is not quite right here, So to me, feminism is very similar to a lot of the other agendas in that on the surface of it, if you only scratch the surface, it's like, yeah, you know what, that's great. Actually, that's about liberation, that's about freedom, that's about liberty, that's about all good qualities. But when you dig deeper, when you go into the deeper layers and you look at the agenda behind the cabal and what they actually utilize it for, that's when you're like, I see what you did there, you sneaky devils, you sneaky bastards, So that's kind of my general kind of take on it, and that it's another, as much as anything else, it's being used to destroy the nucleus of the family unit, and that to me is utterly sacrosanct in society, the family unit. I'm really realizing how important that is, because it's even enshrined in the Constitution as the highermost authority in law, so that to me is where the biggest angle is, and it's trying to just divide man and women. It's another huge divide and conquer mechanism.
Yeah, it's divide and conquer is one, but like I really want to mention this, which goes back on what I said before. So basically, like I totally agree with you. Yeah, women should have the same rights. They should be able to vote and that and that and that. But like the moment from the beginning, it was just for same rights and being able to vote and have their voice. But
it's first wave feminism.
Yeah. But it's end up into the situation when the society is expecting from women to be a mother and be working, which is again why they was made, not just to have the voice, but they be working and have careers. So more slaves works for the elites first. And this, which is most alarming for me, which people doesn't really understand. If woman tries to be the mother and do the career, who is raising kids? Yeah. Government is raising your kids, and what kids are taught in the schools? Follow the rules. Don't do your own research. There is just one or another. Again, where we go, there is yes or no, agree or don't agree. There is always just two choices, which are not really choices. So in the end of the day, government just raises their next generation of slaves. That's why they are taken away from mothers, and they don't understand that. So I know it sounds harsh, but still, like, if you sit down and try to think why you have kids, you don't raise that kid. You're never going to see your kid besides 1 hour before he goes to sleep. So why you have a kid? Kid could be like, you give him your knowledge, your wisdom, you raise as a
your nurture, your love, your care,
Yeah. But since now, because the movement was Pikachu, you can't do that. You just basically can't do it.
And as well as that, Efrita, like obviously, it's the most natural maternal thing in the world to want to have children as well, right? It's same with paternal, it's same with men and women, we're naturally born to procreate. That's one of our God-given purposes on this land, and yet how many people of this generation have become so indoctrinated in like even the climate change agenda scam and all the rest that they're actually saying, well, I actually don't want to have children. I think it'd be better for the planet, because we've been almost taught to be kind of a scourge on society. That's like, I don't want to have kids, like that. It's so unnatural.
No, but it's not even just almost, but there is actually articles in the newspapers like, if you want to save the planet, don't have a kid.
Yeah.
Okay, hell, like, and the next, and it's not even over. Like at this point where we are, there is more and more agendas coming in to make men more and more unsecure. Have you heard about the latest hoax, or how you call it? It's financial abuse over the woman by men. Have you heard that?
No, sorry, what's that? Financial abuse of the woman by the man?
Or it's not like this abuse or physical abuse. Now it's financial abuse. So basically, like, it was for a week, and I know it's going on the articles in the newspapers as well. And actually, the Today FM radio pushes it very hard. They have the so-called professionals on this. Basically, it's new hoax is that women are not in charge with their own money in the family environment, and it's a big problem. We have to look after it. We have to educate women. Blah 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 blah. I'm very sorry. Like, I'm not really sorry actually, but like, if feminists actually listening to me, like, maybe just go back and see your actions. So many women are spending like all the wages on the boots, on the shoes, on the dresses, on the makeups, on the hairstyle, hairdressers, stuff like that. Maybe before you blame that men took over your financial finances in your family, maybe you don't fit to be the person who takes care of finances in the family. Or another thing, excuse me, shit happens. Maybe you marry a man. Why you always blaming men lately? Start thinking about, you are not belly button of the world. You have to work as a couple, as a family. It's not like man or woman, it's a family. And that's again where you go with that, like, it's just to destroy family.
It's interesting though. It comes back, as you say, to accountability, to be accountable for your own actions, to take personal responsibility. And I think, the media establishment, the big tech establishment, the corporations, they're trying to deliberately get people to deflect away their own responsibility, tie into that victimhood, victim mentality, and that your problems are not as a result. Now, I know that it's kind of, it's maybe that's a bit pot kettle black, having I'm bitching about how the corporations are basically, it's like there's a corporate coup d'etat going on in the world, but that's all across the world. That's going on in every nation. Nobody's able to get away from that. And that's what we're fighting against. But the fact that they're getting people to absolve themselves of their own personal responsibility, it's a huge problem, and it's an interesting, it's a huge interesting one, because the dynamic between men and women is, it's gone through so many changes. It's definitely a very nuanced situation. Like it's very, very nuanced. And to me, whatever way it ought to go, progressively for the benefit of a good functioning society, it has to be for whatever is for the benefit of the family unit. Whatever is the benefit of a well-functioning marriage. Introduce an element, have practicality over ideology. You know what I mean? Be pragmatic, be practical, much more over ideology, because ideology is ruling so many people's lives at the moment. It's quite scary to see. And even within, let's call a spade, within sometimes the truth movement, there's sometimes ideologues as well, people who abide by an ideology. And I think even Jordan Peterson made the point, ideologues are dangerous because they're closed-minded. And Peter Hitchens once said, the most impenetrable fortress in the world is a closed mind. And I think that's so abundantly obvious over the course of the last 2 years. it's the one thing I'd always express to people, you know, is if they want to know what's going on, the first thing they have to, if they want to kind of learn more about what's going on, there is, and you know as well as I do, there's people waking up every single day, and you know they're like, it's, we all hear the stories, we're all meeting people, we're all seeing what's happening, every single day there's people waking up. But the first step in that is just to have an open mind, because even despite some of the information you'll hear and some of the knowledge that you accumulate, at first glance you're like, here, now that's just batshit crazy, you know. That's I remember the first time I heard about gematria and I heard about numbers and how it's used to manipulate, and I was like, look, come on, that's too far, I'm open-minded, but it's too far. But then I had to be, once someone had, you know, given me the knowledge and the insight, I actually be like, hang on a minute, you have to be acknowledge your own ignorance, because humanity has been kept deliberately ignorant for a long time, for multiple centuries, perhaps even potentially longer, who knows, you know. But we those people who are waking up now, we have no excuse to remain ignorant anymore. Do you know what I mean? We have to make ourselves educated, and we have to, you know, bring back this knowledge that's been incrementally eroded for many's a year. But yeah, again, another kind of a tangent, you know. But I just think that the open-mindedness, people having an open mind, there's if somebody is closed-minded to what's going on, you really are, by and large, I wouldn't say wasting your time, but you know, you're barking up the wrong tree if you're trying to get those people to really see what's actually happening around the world, and how deep the matrix actually goes into all aspects of our life.
Yeah, that's why I'm encouraging even the so-called awakened people, lots of activists, they have such a tunnel vision. It's just like things and masks. That's all I know. They are bad. I'm listening every day, 10 speeches of the doctors. I'm reading through the vaccine side effects and stuff like that. You have to be, as you said, like open-minded and just like start digging around the thing. It's not just COVID. It's not just the vaccines. It's not just the masks. It's not just Ukraine. You have to, as you said, like, read the history books, listen to people with, like, learn the NLP, even if you don't study it, at least like, just like pick the pieces here and there, what you're hearing, and discover them. Because like, if you have like a lot of knowledge and then you start seeing, and then you can connect the dots. Because like, if you have just two things in your mind, but it's two dots and you're connecting them, it's not enough. You need lots of dots, you need a lot of knowledge, and you need to research different things around you, what's going on, like even like transgenderism, the nationalism, the feminism, the whatever.
Because once you connect the dots, you see this natural coalescence between all the agendas kicking into place. Now, you know, one thing I would say on that is I do believe there's, you know, some people, like, we all have a role in this, right? Every single person. I'm talking about, you know, it doesn't matter how active you are, because nobody's better than anyone else in this. Absolutely nobody. So we all have a role, and we all are cogs in the wheel of truth, freedom, justice, and all the rest. But you know, some people will have a niche role, granted, whereby they have to go into the real depth of knowledge, you know, be it, as you say, vaccines, masks, whatever, you know, 5G, for example, whatever it might be, and they go into a real depth of knowledge, and that's a very purposeful role in the broader picture and how we kind of fight against this. But for a lot of other people, then it's, you know, there is absolutely so much scope for, you know, have that love of learning, to actually learn about what, like, the learning that I've gone through even over the course of the last 12 months, it's been utterly exhilarating, and it's like constant neurons, and the, you know, the synapses going off in your brain every single day, every single minute, every conversation, you know. It's unbelievable, to be quite honest. And obviously you have to use your God-given level of discernment to do your research, check the veracity of it and all the rest. But as you say, you know, be open-minded. Some people, they just, you know, but maybe then again, Efrita, I don't know, maybe that's kind of it's a different awakening for everybody. You know, maybe some people, they have to go down through certain kind of paths first of all, and then, you know, that opens up other paths, that opens up, you know, all the other things that, you know, maybe understanding the financial system, the usury finance system, that's a huge one, to be honest. That's how the plutocracy has really kind of accumulated power. it's one I'd always recommend people go down. How is credit actually created, and who owns the central banks and the Bank of International Settlements and all the Rothschild cartel and all the rest. But for people to have that viewpoint, because at the end of the day, it's knowledge sharing. This isn't we're exchanging knowledge here. We're exchanging knowledge sharing, and hopefully it being educational for ourselves and even potentially for people listening. That's the joys of what's going on. But it's always, I suppose, to remind people, or not even remind them, because you can't. It's difficult to tell you should never. It's difficult when you tell people what to do. You know what I mean? Because people are always going to do whatever their own personal truth is anyway. Whatever resonates with them, that's exactly what they're going to do. So it's just encouraging people, I suppose, to be open-minded to all aspects of this absolute war on humanity that we're living through. Which I think that's undeniable, that this is an absolute war on humanity. So. Would you? Can I ask you a question, Afrita? Would you consider yourself to be? You'd be quite cynical, yeah, like in a healthy way, a healthy dose of cynicism. It's how you've kind of opened up to what's going on in the world, yeah.
I would say even more. Sometimes I feel like I'm cynical in not healthy way. I sometimes go too far.
Okay.
Anything until I prove it myself that or dig up or something like. Sometimes people ask the questions and they expect, for example, if somebody asks me something and they expect straight away answer, and I'm that person, I would even say I'm not shy to say I have no fucking idea, ask me in a week. And I'll go dig, try to research, and then make up my mind. It's kind of, again, people usually are kind of manipulated or made to believe in if somebody is asking you a question, you have to answer. No, you. If you don't know the answer, just say I don't know, ask me later.
Do you know, see, I'm the same, right? It's actually a sign of somebody who's not insecure, somebody who can admittedly say that, I don't know the answer to that. I actually, to be honest, I really have no idea. But to me, that always piques my curiosity. If I don't know something, then I'll for whatever reason, you'll manifest finding somebody who does know, and it'll just, it'll naturally happen, And we need people who are so cynical and skeptical, because there's so many psyops and all going on. And as you say, it means that you're actually going to, you wouldn't speak on something if you're not assured in your own knowledge. You know what I mean? If you're not assured in your own research. But the reason I actually asked that, right? Because I know it's difficult sometimes I know a lot of cynics, and they're brilliant people, and they're so important in the movement, is I often ask them the question, are you positive about what's happening, be it in Ireland or in an international context? Because sometimes I know it's difficult for people who are very cynical, because there's so many factors, there's so many things that could go right or could go wrong. But I always say, are you positive? Because as you can see, for me, I'm brimming with positivity about what's going on, because I think humanity is literally finally learning its lessons that have probably they've tried to learn for so many years. And this great cataclysm is absolutely necessary for the betterment of humanity as a whole. It really is, in terms of the type of world that's been created based upon justice and joy, and take away all this superficial narcissistic bullshit.
Yeah, because without all the COVID and stuff like that, there wouldn't be so many people awakening. And I believe they didn't expect that.
Do you think?
I think they didn't. Life was just easy, and as I said, even and I know many people, and as you said, and we know there is people waking up every single day. If this happened, there wouldn't be people waking up, because why? I'm okay, I'm going to work, I feed my family, I watch Netflix, go sleep, go back to work, everything is perfect. But now, all things cause people to waken up and their intentions.
And do you think that, the way we've all we're all finding our spiritual tribes, and we're all meeting people, you're smiling here, you know where I'm going with this, but do you think it's kind of serendipitous in that we were all meant to meet each other? I get that vibe, and I think that's a fairly prevailing viewpoint. The people who are awake, what I find is we all find we have this responsibility as much, and we have a responsibility to do what we do, a moral and ethical obligation to do whatever it is that our role is. Doesn't matter what it is, we have a responsibility to do that, because we've been placed here by some higher power, be it God or otherwise. We have that higher power, we have that absolute expectation. And to me, it's such a it's a wonderful feeling when you express it, when you're around people that you're meant to meet, because what's coming, I don't think personally, and I don't mean this to be discarding of those maybe 30% who will never wake up, but at this point in time, there's such an urgency in terms of what's happening with the digital IDs, with food shortages, with social credit system, with draconian legislation, with 5Gs, with that thing in the arm, with absolutely everything, that we actually have to focus our time upon mobilizing what we have, in terms of, rather than just trying to wake up everyone. I know your website now is called Last Wake Up Call, so it kind of, it emphasizes the sense of urgency in the situation, the sense of urgency for humanity, for Ireland, for general decency for the pureness of human nature. They're trying to incorporate us into fucking transhumanism, you know what I mean? Like, it's completely dystopian. So yeah, I just think the emphasis really has to be just mobilizing what we have, and we all know who it is we're supposed to be working with and all the rest, because you feel it in your bones, when you meet someone, I'll collaborate with them, I'll work with them, and you click like everyone. This is, I've heard this a million times over. You just click, and that's it, and you know you're going to be working with that person for whatever reason, and lots of projects or different things. But anyway, I think I completely went away from my original question to ask you, were you positive?
Yeah, well, no, I totally agree with you about the connecting with people and stuff like that. It's funny thing, like half a year before the lockdown, I on purpose, I moved out of the town. I was sick of the people. I said, like, I am going to live in a rural area. I was so happy. So like, lockdowns didn't bother me at all, because like I just wanted to be away from people. But as you said, like, and then like when I started to go to the protests and stuff like that, and you find the same-minded people, like, that's it, they are like magnets. You want to be with them, because like it's such a big difference between like people who can think with their heads, like they are not a robot. They call them lately.
Can I, one more thing, right? Sorry, I was. You know how you say you think with your heads. Do you know what someone said to me the other day? Somebody who I would consider to be, quite spiritually enlightened. They've been down this path of mysticism and all the rest for many years, but they actually discussed kind of heart intelligence compared to brain intelligence, and they said that your heart, so like your intuition, your gut instinct, your soul, whatever it might be, but your heart is actually your real decision maker, and up here is just a filing cabinet. Do you know what I mean? That this is actually far more potent in terms of its level of intelligence. I don't know, you know what I mean? So, because sometimes we can get caught up in our own head. Like I find it even, I have to go out into nature and stuff, because you're constantly ruminating, strategizing, thinking about all manner of different things, and then you have to sometimes just go back to the heart to see what, what feels right and all, when you're thinking about what to do next or whatever.
I'll say even more on that. In my belief, there is people who have souls and people who have no souls, who I call bio-robots. They have no souls, they have no remorse, they have no conscience, they have nothing. And that's where, when you meet another person who actually have the soul, then you feel that connection. Maybe I described it a little bit different, like brain or intelligence or whatever, but like, it's like there is people with souls and there is people with no souls. As I described in my movie, like Huspa, by all the politicians and elites act as they act. I'm not going to go deep today, like I'll just leave the link. And so yeah, that's what I believe. Like, I was living in a city where it's all the bio-robots with no souls, with no conscience, with no remorse, with nothing, and I just like, I wanted to run away from there. And then like I met the people who actually have souls, and then you see like, oh, actually not all the people. I'm not against the people as a people. I just can't connect with.
I've seen it though, even, and like, and Ireland was almost famous for its soul, even the Irish language, for example, right? And my mother was telling me about this today. So even if you say I'm hungry in English, it's just I am hungry, but if you say it in Irish, it's ta'ahis arham. I'm probably getting the pronunciation wrong, but it means the hunger is on me, and it's a very spiritual thing, it's kind of on your soul. And I remember one day, I'll never forget, I was after a rally up in Dublin, Afrita, and I was walking through Dublin we had a great day for whatever reason. I won't go into the story, but we just had a good day, and it was just real positive energy, and it was great crack as well, to be honest. It was really great crack, and it was a very important rally, and we were coming through Dublin city centre afterwards, and all we could just feel, and all of us noticed the same thing, oh my God, it's like soulless around here. There's no connection. There's no natural vibrancy. You know, I remember being up in the Ayr Square in Galway during the Christmas markets, and I was like, geez, there's no life here. There's no vibrancy. There's no actual soul, you know, and not that because people were wearing these things that were covering up the connection, you know, in terms of speaking with one another, but just in general society. Like, how many times I had a spontaneous, I was walking home yesterday from somewhere, and I just had a spontaneous interaction with a man down the bottom of my road, and I was just chatting away to him for about 10 minutes. It was just a real pleasant conversation, you know. He was clearing out the pipes after the rain had come down, and it was like, God, you see so little of that kind of spontaneous human interaction, that general soul, you know what I mean? But then when you're at, be it meetings, be it parties, be it rallies, whatever it might be, you really feel that soul amongst people, and those people who have that same care for humanity and are not completely absorbed in their own tunnel vision little world, you know, they're actually mindful as to all the trauma, all the injustice, all the love, I suppose, as well, on the other side of what's actually happening in the outside world, you know. And it's just, it's really powerful. It's just, it's a really powerful thing, you know. Like someone asked me, an old friend got in touch with me recently, and they said, how are you getting on with all this? And I said, to be honest with you, I'm happier than I've ever been. Sure, how could I not? You know what I mean? With the people that you meet, it's just, it's a wonderful thing. But anyway, I admit I'm a cynical optimist, but I'm very positive as to what's going on, and people maintaining their soul. Right.
Yeah, as we established, like, we are the people with the souls, and as I always say, we are not going to be defeated. People with pure souls can't be defeated. Even if you're going to be killed, you can't be defeated because you didn't die on your knees. You didn't die as a biorobot. That's the most important thing. But we all activists, all the awakened people we know the elites' plans, we know their tools, we know their manipulation systems. So like, we just have to stay firm, stand up, look for the new hawks coming, not fall for them, and just like, yeah, just be a real human.
Yep. I'd echo that entirely, Afrita. I think, you know, the battle at the moment is for your souls. You know, that's really what it is. You know, this is an absolute great cataclysm of how many years, I don't know. It goes back to the cycle, you know, 15, 20,000 years. I have no idea, to be quite honest. But I'm open to finding it out. But yeah, I think to just emphasize the people, the utter defiance of the human spirit. There's so much fear porn out there, even amongst our side, you know. Whilst there's obviously, it's coming at us, you know, left, right and centre, whoa, you know, there's a lot to absorb and to process and whatnot. I respect and appreciate that, but even a lot of people have become sometimes kind of consumptionists of content, you know. I say that whilst we're creating content, so maybe I'm a bit of a hypocrite in saying that, but you know, in terms of, you know, instead of being kind of on the ground active, sometimes just getting caught up in like looking at, you know, all the group chats, what's going on here, there and everywhere all day, and sometimes they're actually becoming a little bit this is just an observation, you know, but a little bit hysterical, a little bit kind of caught up in fear. And fear doesn't come from your creator. Fear comes from the other side, you know, the dark side, the devil, whatever way you want to call it. That's where fear comes from, you know. So I think just biggest thing is to don't bend to fear, no matter what, no matter how apocalyptic, no matter how bad things get, no matter whether, you know, they kill us, you get arrested, no matter what, because we're souls. Our souls are eternal beings anyway, you know. There's no fear in that whatsoever. So just to try not to propagate the fear and to understand that the defiance of the human spirit, I think the Kabbalists set contingency plans for pretty much everything, but the one thing they can't account for is those people who are awakened. I think because we're, by and large, we're fairly unpredictable, you know, in what we can do, and just the strength of force of humanity withstanding this absolute onslaught, and to always be hopeful and to you know, to try contemplate and think about and envision what this new world that's actually coming. And even if we don't get to see it, even if it takes 50, 60 years and we don't get to see it, doesn't matter. We're still a part of it, you know, because this is so much bigger than any individual. It's so much bigger than me. It's so much bigger than you. It's so much bigger than absolutely, you know, almost any aspect of our individual lives. This is, you know, just absolute good versus evil, you know, so we all know what side we stand on. And yeah, that's pretty much it for me. Thanks very much for having me this evening, Frita. I really enjoyed it. I look forward to doing another one with you, hopefully again soon.
Thank you, John, so much for joining me. It was like I really enjoyed it, and it was like really nice. Yeah, and hopefully we're going to do soon another one. There is so many subjects to cover, but like, yeah, as I said, like, don't stick with your tunnel vision. Discover things around you. There is not just masks and vaccines and the wars. You have to discover what's else around you so you can connect the dots. Okay, thank you so much for joining me. Don't forget, subscribe, thumbs up, and see you very soon, my friend.